Now, let's talk about the property market. Was it affected by the MCO?
Things are going up right after the RMCO.
Okay.
I think things are a lot of people going to showroom. That's at least what we see. But as far as how many loans get approved, that it's remain to be seen.
Right.
For rental market specifically, Speedhome specifically, we had a down month on April. May we recovered immediately, and in June we actually grew 31%.
Wow.
That's a jump.
Yeah.
What happened there? I mean,
I think the rental market, as I always believe, it's always a very resilient and recession proof lah. People need a home to live in, right?
Yeah.
So regardless, either you delay your purchases, but you still need a house to live in, right? Which means you have to rent or stay with your family or whatnot.
Okay.
Now, in this current economic climate, is it wiser to rent or buy, and why?
If you are still moving around, you're not settled in a place, renting it's a much better option. And in fact, but for buying for own stay, anytime it's a good time to buy. Yeah. I mean, a house that is good for investment doesn't necessarily mean a good place to live in.
Right.
So, the criteria for own stay, it's very different from renting it out.
Now, let's talk about renting, though. That's what you are pro at, your profession. What are some of the pros and cons of renting?
It's a relationship thing. As much as you think you are renting a place, it's a relationship thing, because the landlord, if they refuse to fix the house, you're screwed. There's no peace of mind in living there.
Yes.
And as far as landlord is concerned, if the tenant is nasty, it's having a problem, right? So I think it all boils down to relationship based on our experience in dealing with it. The house is a house, It doesn't change.
Yes, 4 walls.
Yeah. The only thing that affects the happiness of living in it is, apart from the environment stuff, but it's more importantly how do you pay rent on time, and if things are broken, does your landlord reach out to fix it immediately, or rather just delaying, right? So I think those are the things in a renting. So in terms of the pros and cons, I think as a tenant, it's really about when you say you want to buy, sometimes when they are more calculative or when they are doing financially things, they will say, now I buy a house, the rental yield is bad, or it's actually cheaper to rent a house. So actually someone say, a lot of people will actually say, right now landlord is paying you to stay in their house because the installment just can't cover, right?
Yeah.
If you bought it recently. So I think those are the things. Renting, it's actually, give you the flexibility, but at the same time, you can move around. I think that's the biggest thing. We see the youngsters, generally they move once every 1 and 2 years, within 1 and 2 years.
Yeah, depending on the contract duration, right?
Yeah.
Such a headache, though, to move every
I do that
twice
a lot, right?
a year.
Yeah.
But right now, it's a lot fully furnished. They are looking for fully furnished, so maybe they just backpack, come in and go like a hotel.
How concerned are owners for their unit whenever, let's say in some places I notice in certain more student-oriented areas, I notice the rentals are always higher than usual. Why is that? Because I noticed that anytime you do a viewing, there's things to be fixed for some reason.
Yeah.
Is that why it's so expensive?
It can be that as a factor, but more importantly, a lot of them do rooms rental, subletting. So it actually, if you rent the whole unit, it's less in terms of rental yield, but if you sublet it, you get higher returns.
Right.
So because of that, if anyone trying to lease out a whole unit, it will still be lower than a sublet, but it's still higher,
So that's the pros of being an owner, buying a unit in a place that has a lot of students in it.
Yes, and it comes with a lot of risk as well for students specifically. They are not as I wouldn't civil in the sense to keep your house in a good condition and all those things.
Right.
Okay, let's say I'm looking for a place to rent right now. What should I look out for?
First of all, look at the access. working, because most of our time is traveling to work, right? I have seen people stuck just getting out of the guardhouse for like 2 hours.
Right.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
But when you view the house, it's empty.
Yeah.
You didn't know what's the traffic during the peak hours, right? So when you see that, then you have to look into the environment and what's the if you have a kid, then you'll need to look at access to schools, education. But I think most importantly, it's really about your work distance, the traveling, right? I think this MCO, some folks work from home. They kind of like it because they don't have to stuck in the jam, and they find it more productivity, or actually work more, good for the company and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think those are the key consideration now. But with, in fact, Speedhome, we actually have permanent work from home policy right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that you can work from home permanently.
Interesting, but like you were saying, house viewing, right? How has house viewing changed in this new norm? Like, have you employed some VR applications to view homes, from home?
During the MCO, we did this video recording of the house tour. It went well. Generally, a lot of them just pay a booking to rent the house without even physically viewing.
Really?
Yeah.
Just from the video?
Yeah. So we give a guarantee, of which we have to get the landlord's consent, that if the viewing is significantly different from, tenants have 3 days upon moving in to
Pull
back
out.
up. Yeah.
Right.
So that gives them this some safety net, in terms of renting directly without viewing. But I think what we are trying to do now, it's we think VR for renting specifically, it's not worth it to do it, because it's not reusable many times. Like for property sale, yes, it makes sense to do VR because the value is higher.
Yeah. But now that things have eased a bit, have viewings, like physical viewings, increased again?
Yes, of course it would. So what we are looking at moving forward, it's we're going to deploy what we call telepresence robot.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're going to have robots in the house to do the viewing.
How does that work?
Well, it's like imagine NASA rover.
Okay.
They remote control, and then they would see everything. So basically, we deploy a robot in the house through 4G or whatever connection, and then people would just browse through the house.
So many developers constantly building new things, new properties to rent out, and it's residential. And I know for a fact that most of them will be rented out. But are there people looking at how tough times are? People are losing jobs here, there, and everywhere. How are they even gonna buy units like that?
If you look at New York or metropolitans, you actually see that a lot of property manager or family funds that buys the entire block.
Right.
And it's a renting culture.
Okay.
I think in Malaysia, slowly we will get there, whereby it's always the rich fellas that actually buy, or in fact there are a lot of property group buy kind of thing, right?
Right.
They will buy the whole block, and then
Rent it out.
Oh, which is why every time you go for a property launch, it's like the day of the launch, you see 80% is already sold. I'm like, how in the world did that happen, right?
Yeah. So I think we are moving to that direction, whereby I think quite a lot of youngsters actually acknowledge that they can't afford to buy a house anymore.
I'm quite content with just renting constantly right now.
It's not a bad option. It's actually quite a wise option right now, because like you say, I pay installment is higher, renting is cheaper, and then I can move it every few years to have a newer units. I don't like this community, and then I just move.
Yeah. If I have a bad neighbor, I'm like, bye, see ya. Right? That's it, right?
But you were saying that rental yields not so good right now. But is there an area where investors can go to where the rental returns are higher?
Well, typically, we deal with the mass market. So, we don't deal with the high-end market like Meng, all those. We don't really deal with that because that's expats market mainly. So we deal with local market. And local market, wages didn't increase much. So the rental power, it's still going to be the same. So the rental rate is between 1,000 to 2,005. So basically, you need to look for an area where people wants to live in, like the house is around 2 to 400,000
Okay.
in around Klang Valley. You still can get that, right? It's studio unit, a small unit.
Right.
Rental is 1,000, 1,002.
Okay.
That one you can have a positive cash flow. But beyond that, if you're looking at 800,000 kind of property, generally the rental yield is 4-5%, but it's a negative cash flow.
I'm constantly looking to rent, and I want something which is a good price. Probably not in the 200,000 to 400,000 range, or not upwards of anything more than 800,000. Something maybe around 500,000, where the rental is reasonable. Where should I be looking at? Where? Because earlier you mentioned
Plenty of location, man.
but access though, there's traffic jams everywhere nowadays, right?
A good location where I'm familiar with is Damansara Perdana.
Right.
It's a fairly good access, and the rental yield there is pretty good. The condominium there, it's like 300,000-400,000,
Yeah.
and rental it's like 1,004. So it's a positive cash flow there.
A lot of people now are renting condos units or apartment units. Are there any people renting homes, like house landed properties?
Generally, because the supply, it's mostly condominium. So obviously, 90% of our transactions are
Condos.
condominium.
I see.
Just a quick tip: 2 to 3 bedroom is the hottest unit.
Yeah.
Studio, nah,
Not so much.
Yeah.
Why are they always furnished though? What is the advantage of being an owner of a unit, renting out your unit fully furnished, where some people already have furniture?
People are always saying, "Oh, what's my rental yield?" and stuff like that. If you're doing a bare unit, then your rental yield will be shit.
Right.
So that's why they furnish it up in hope they can get a better return.
It's sort of like a bigger investment for the landlord, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like to buy all these things and
I think
risk them all getting torn up and broken.
I have a unit. I fully furnish it. Right now, I couldn't find a tenant.
I'll find one unit that is maybe 1,500 to 2,000 ringgit a month, unfurnished, and then furnished, it's 1,500 ringgit more than that. I'm like, it's adding furniture, adding that much value, like that it's 1,500 ringgit extra.
Depending on how much they put in, the plow in, and then whether they can successfully rent it out, it's another case, right?
What's the most important thing that landlords must consider before renting their homes out?
You need to paint a ideal picture of who your ideal tenant is, and where would they. You need a persona. You need to imagine who they are, where do we work, and stuff like that. Then you decide on whether you want to fully furnish it or partially or whatnot. But a lot of houses right now is partially furnished right now. And basically just build tailored to that audience. Because if you build it very generic, then you end up attracting nobody.
Right.
So I think, very targeted, right? So I think family-based are the better tenants. As much as people don't like kids in renting specifically because they draw the wall and stuff like that. But in terms of stable tenant or long-lasting relationship, family are the best ones.
Now, how about for tenants? What must they consider before moving into a property?
I think they need to survey quite a fair bit to find out what's the really good place for them to live in. And I think if they are thinking if it's just 1 year thing, maybe they don't have to worry so much. But if you are thinking of 3 to 4 years kind of thing, then it's best that they do a thorough, research on it. Like, for example, traffic jams. You don't want to end up caught in the traffic on a daily basis to get out of gut house for 2 hours.
Or maybe because there are some pitfalls.
Yeah.
Like when you look at a place, and I'm just wondering whether it's true for most people, because I'm slightly OCD when it comes to this. I'll go in, I'll check every switch, make sure the electricals are working. I'll check the water pressure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, why do you do that? But is that reasonable to do?
Actually, that is quite mandatory to do that.
Right.
Often we have found a relationship started rocky. It's when things don't work. So we always told the tenant, upon moving in within a week, you must report all the fault,
Right.
things that don't work, because or else later the landlord will say, oh, actually you broke it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the tenant said, no, it's not my fault, and then that's where
Yeah.
the relationship
Because
is
it's a
out.
he said, she said kind of thing that nobody
Yeah.
says, right? Do investors use really fancy facilities to entice
Well, it
people in?
does entice people. Some people are enticed by the outlook of it,
Yeah.
and units specifically not necessarily, but I think most actually look at the house, and if it's a lady, they will always look at kitchen cabinet.
Oh, really?
But I mean, as a mediator, right, between the landlord and the tenants, have you had any interesting cases or stories that you can share with us?
For example, MCO, we did few things, like for example, because people couldn't pay rent, they are in risk for eviction, then we offered them, we actually sponsor, we work out with a partner to say, these tenants, we couldn't afford so many things, right? So I said, at least we sponsor a room, you can move out first. And the tenant said, no, that is disgrace.
Wow.
No, that is humiliating.
So they'd rather be homeless than just get a room.
They don't want to move out lah.
Okay.
What can you do?
What can the owner of the
So
unit...
then we apply for court order. The tenant is very well aware of his her rights, not his. Because generally Malaysia is pretty protective of the tenants.
Okay.
So eviction, it takes time. So
This is interesting. What do you mean by that? Okay, what are my
I
rights?
shouldn't be saying
What
that.
are my rights? That means if I don't pay my rent, I don't have to go out until the end of my tenancy agreement.
You overstay, it's fine.
Really?
There's no recourse of action for the only way to get you out legally, it's to get court order.
And it will
Wow.
take time as well.
Yeah.
How often?
6 months.
How often do cases like that happen?
Rare,
Right.
but those that know their rights, like not their rights, they know the loophole, they will do that.
Now let's talk about Speedhome.
Yeah.
What made you want to start up Speedhome?
I think that in the digital world right now, there needs to be alternative that empowers landlord to do it themselves. They have the control to do it themselves. So Speedhome is built on the basis that how can we empower landlords and tenants to deal direct. So we built a lot of tools, automation to help them to do that. So for example, we actually screen the tenant. We go through a credit screening to reduce their risk. We help them with rental collection. We do end-to-end.
Something happened to you that made you want to start Speedhome?
Of course, agents are great, but there are some black sheep as well. So obviously, some bad experience happened, and that's why I thought we should do something about it lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it basically went, I can fix this system.
No, not really. I mean, there are a lot of illegal agents in the market, and I think the authority should do something about it to tackle all this. I mean, one recent, not recent case, as much as I'm a Speedhome CEO, I should champion my platform. I don't mind using agent, on a personal basis, right? And the last one, I got cheated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Basically, they have this way of getting landlords and tenants to meet, and then I told the agent I wanted 2005.
Right.
Then he told me the tenant only 2001. Then I said, no, I'm not doing it. Then he said 2003. I said, yeah, okay. Then we meet. When we meet, he told me the tenant tried to negotiate with me to say, oh, my budget is 2001. I thought I
Agreed upon, yeah.
Yeah. Then the tenant said the agent didn't tell me anything. So what to do? I already done everything for them.
Yeah.
But the agent said, okay, I'll subsidize 50 ringgit a month for a year. So it's 2150. Then I said, 50 bucks is not a lot, but I'll take it lah. And the thing is, he didn't pay me at all. Not that I care about 50 bucks a month, but it says a lot about integrity, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm unhappy with that.
Now, I read that Speedhome has come up with an initiative to sort of help our frontliners
Yeah.
during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
There's this kita jaga kita, the community. They reached out to us. They said these doctors couldn't find place to live.
Doctors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they don't want to go home and risk infecting
I
their
see.
families.
Okay.
right?
Right.
But at the same time, more importantly, is actually a lot coming from other states. They mobilize the other states' doctors to KL, and they can't find house because landlords don't want them. They are worried of their house,
Being what?
Health risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, they are risking their life to, save the country, and it doesn't make sense. So we launched a campaign, and in fact, these doctors don't get paid, they don't get subsidy or whatnot, right? So it's great that we have a very strong partnership with Allianz. So we actually sponsor 2 months of rental for the doctors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
I heard you find places really close to the hospitals for them as well, right?
Yeah. Because our platform have 4,000 to 5,000 units, right? So it's scattered around the Klang Valley, within Klang Valley. So it's not hard to find somewhere nearby, and that's where our strength are.